Well, I'm now going to give you a video which is going to hopefully show you what you can do now in this time of very, very bad economic crisis to try to do something for yourselves and the people in your community. I think it's very possible, and I want to show you what I think you can do from this video. The title of it is What You Can Do for Yourself and Others, and my name is Carl Pearson. I'm an attorney practicing law through a sole proprietorship law firm, which is owned by me alone, that means. And I'm preparing this video on April 10th, 2020, with more than 459,000 confirmed coronavirus cases and 16,400 deaths in the U.S. as of April 9th. I note that South Korea had only 204 deaths in total because they had virtually 100% testing. We've had less than 1% testing. So that's just something I want to observe now that was in the news today. So in this video, I'm going to explain what you can do to help you and others to survive the oncoming super depression and actually come out much stronger financially than those and those individuals and municipalities which fail to act. The municipality which acts the first, I think, will probably be rewarded the most. Just that's almost a law of nature. I believe that smaller municipalities are in a position to create prosperity for the residents and small businesses, and I've explained how in my prior 4 videos at least, but they need political leadership. And I've tried to suggest that ballot initiatives would be the kind of political leadership that could be used. But instead, in this case, I'm going to explain a different type, and that is, this video explains what I have done myself to offer such political leadership and how you can continue this effort for me and your municipality by running for mayor or local legislator. I explain how I decided to try to become mayor in any town in the U.S. In a short while, and the side issue of whether a residency requirement under state or local laws can be overcome. Now, don't be turned away by the side issue here of residency. That it really started off what the video was about, but I realized that it has a much greater significance and that most people won't have the residency requirement at all. So, and I'll let you consider for several minutes whether non-resident mayors is good or bad and whether it would help create or diminish prosperity for the town. But remember, it's just a side issue. Most viewers will be residents already, so that the residency issue for them is non-existent. I'm 83 years old, and to protect my life, I'm in fairly rigid self-imposed quarantine with no coronavirus symptoms and no tests, and am in my 25th day of self-imposed quarantine, and have watched my law practice precipitously decline starting 2 months ago because of the coronavirus, followed by the temporary cessation of new lawsuits in New York State. By the way, it's about 2:30 or 3 a.m. in the morning, and I can see that I'm getting tongue-tied here. I have been a third party and therefore knowingly unelectable candidate for U.S. President, New York State Attorney General, and New York City Mayor to try to find out for myself workable ways to overcome the inability and unwillingness of legislatures at all levels to enact laws needed by the vast majority of U.S. citizens and other permanent residents. I believed then, and still do, that unless you understand the problem, it is usually difficult to know how to fix the problem. I started looking at the smaller units of government because 1, the federal and state levels were not working, and 2, smaller units of government seemed to be less costly to reach and change. And that's a very important feature now, especially since I have been talking in previous videos about the single zip code prosperity reforms. I was a political science major in college, and I learned about how so-called ward healers in New York City during the early 1900s through the 1920s were able to give the infamous Tammany Hall control of New York City and its huge budget. Wikipedia states, ward healer is an American urban political operative who works for a political party in a political ward, the smallest electoral subdivision of a city, usually in order to achieve an election result. A ward healer may have controlling influence with a small clique in the ward organization. Often, ward healers have been low-level operatives soliciting votes and performing campaign tasks on behalf of a political boss, including get-out-the-vote efforts, placing campaign signage, coordination of constituent support, etc. In many urban areas, ward healers also serve as precinct captains. The term originated during the period of machine politics around the turn of the 20th century, when powerful political machines in major cities run by political bosses, such as the Tammany Hall organization in New York City, used corruption such as graft and patronage to maintain their power. Now that's the end of the Wikipedia quote. I started focusing on small units of government offering assistance to local individuals seeking re-election or election as local mayor. And when this did not pan out, I started thinking whether it was lawful for a total outsider to run for mayor in any of the nation's 36,011 municipalities, not including county governments. Municipalities include hamlets, towns, villages, burgs, and cities with an average of 700 per state. This video in a minute or so will give you the answer to this very much side issue. I prepared various items in support of persons seeking election as mayor throughout the U.S., including a 4-page letter to mayors, a website with campaign issues for would-be mayors, and a poster with a picture of myself in full Solicitor General costume proclaiming, quote, "I want to be your mayor. Here is my 15-point program," unquote, followed by a list of 15 benefits I would try to get if enacted as mayor by the local legislator, or if in spite of, in other words, that the local legislature could adopt those if they wanted, but as mayor I would be more able to encourage them to do that. That was my thinking. So my answer to this really, I had done legal research and found several cases involving smaller towns in which the court permitted a non-resident to run for mayor. The reasoning was that in a small town there may be nobody qualified who wants to run for mayor, so it doesn't make sense, at least in smaller towns, not to allow an outsider to be mayor. So my answer to this really side issue, therefore, is for a non-resident hopeful to run for mayor in smaller towns and villages, and if necessary to get on the ballot and bring suit claiming that a residential requirement is too restrictive and therefore unconstitutional. The courts will probably be less inclined to declare unconstitutionality the larger the town or the higher the elective office involved. If you do plan to do that, contact me and I'll give you some free help. So I give the website addresses for those mentioned websites and documents in my description for this video, all of which should be useful for you if you run for mayor or the local legislation, especially as a qualified resident. There are many issues on which to run as a mayoral candidate anywhere in the U.S. I have listed and developed them in various websites, including Law Mall, electionissuesus.com, townattorneygeneral.com, my mayoral poster, my letter to mayors, collegeadmissionsscandal.com, americanjobsparty.org, Law Mall with its New York City ballot initiatives. There are too many good issues in my websites to list in this video, and you are urged to look at the websites and web addresses to look over the issues I have identified and let me know what additions are needed. If a person such as yourself became the mayor of a small town, or even a legislator, where that's less power, I think, than most mayors would have, but you would be in an opportunity which is needed right now to be able to urge the town to adopt some of these reforms, and hopefully the 3 reforms to create prosperity for residents and small businesses in that town. You have the problem right now, as I see it, that the super wealthy, the ones who pay for the campaigns of the successful mayors and legislators, are in no way want these reforms, because these reforms would take the profits and income and values that go along with monopolies and concentration of the economy and distribute them to small business and be more available to the individuals who work for small businesses. And therefore, unless we get somebody in there who is able to understand and want to do this, we're not going to see these reforms adopted. It's up to you, and you have the time now, in many cases, because of this coronavirus problem and the fact that there are tens of millions of jobs that are now being destroyed, and possibly yours. And therefore you have the time and energy and interest in trying to do something. The way I see it, we have to work at the smallest level, and the smallest level is the municipality. Smaller municipalities are doable. It's unlike the referendum in California, where hundreds of millions of dollars from New York went to California to pay for the referendum. But in New York, in local communities, if you have a referendum, the referendum is small. That is, the cost of running for mayor or running for a legislature, a local legislature, or even a referendum, if it's done that way, it's very small, and it's affordable by a small group of people who could collect money even during the process to recover their expenses on it. So this is what I'm urging you to do. And I hope that some viewers will pursue some of these election issues by running for mayor or local legislator in a municipality anywhere in the U.S. I'll provide some help for free, and you should be aware that, as I said, I'm not seeking any compensation for my help. These political changes are too important for having personal compensation involved. So make it a point to go out there and do something, because you can do it, and that can be the major breakthrough that we need in order to solve this economic crisis. So I've said what I plan to say, and I'll say so long until my next video.